Have you heard of Professor Oubier?
Of course. His name is synonymous with Mayan art. A number of these artifacts were supplied by Oubier himself.
I suppose you have an import license for these relics?
Of course. But that's not my problem, sir. The professor arranges all the shipping. We simply collect the items from the docks.
Could you tell me which docks Professor Oubier uses to import the artifacts?
Good God, no. I can't possibly reveal my commercial secrets.
Do you believe the story that Oubier murdered his wife?
If it was true, who can blame him? She was an opportunist tramp. Well, that's what I heard.
Have you seen any of Oubier's wife's films?
Only one. Believe me, I was appalled, shocked, disgusted, and repulsed.
Well, you sure got your money's worth. Last time I went to the movies, I wasn't even titillated. What I really wanted to ask you about was a black stone.
A black stone?
Yeah, it's a Mayan artifact, about as big as my hand.
No, sir, one doesn't get much call for black stones. If it's Mayan artifacts you're interested in, I have some rather exquisite pots.
Yeah, I noticed. I've already got one of those. You're Lane, the critic, aren't you?
Correct. Can't you see I'm busy?
Busy? Doing what?
Appreciating the art, or depreciating it. I have a reputation to uphold.
I could tell this guy was going to be hard work. Would you give me your opinion on this pot, sir?
Yes. Very rapuche.
Rapuche?
Hideous.
What the hell do you think you're doing? You smashed my pot.
Certainly, it was not only worthless, it was ugly and offensive.
To you, maybe.
Believe me, I was doing you a favor.
What's that you're drinking?
I'm not sure, but I have a suspicion it might be urine. Glees can't expect a favorable criticism of his gallery when he serves this muck.
That pot you smashed belonged to Professor Oubier.
Did it really? I thought the man had more taste.
What's the difference between my pot and all those other pots?
Yours is broken.
Why, you smug, pompous sloth.
Sticks and stones, dear boy, sticks and stones.
I wasn't going to waste any more breath talking to that pompous blimp. Maybe I could turn the situation to my advantage, and at the same time, get my revenge. The pot had smashed into too many pieces to retrieve. Lane doesn't think much of your choice of wine.
Blasted nerve. The priest who sold it to me said it was a good year.
That slob Lane just smashed my Mayan pot.
Yes, he can be rather impulsive.
Impulsive? The man's a hooligan. I bet if it was one of yours, you'd be more concerned. I splashed a little absinthe into the glass and hoped he wouldn't notice the change of color.
Did you put something in my drink?
Yeah, I did. Well, what do you think?
Well, it's certainly an improvement over Glees's wine. In fact, I could grow to like it.
Allow me. He was out for the count. Glees wasn't happy, I could tell. Were those pots very valuable?
The pots are insured, but not the shelving. You've no idea how much that cost me.
I had no possible use for a credit card reader. It was a sturdy packing case. There was nothing in the case but styrofoam packing, but pasted on the side was the remains of a label. It was a label bearing a company name and logo. Underneath the logo of a flying bird were the words Condor Transglobal Mars. The rest of the label was missing. It was beginning to make sense. Oubier had organized Nico's abduction. Oubier withdrew money from Marseille. Oubier was connected with Transglobal, who shipped their goods from a warehouse in Marseille. That's how the torn Transglobal label had once read. Marseille, not Mars. It wasn't much of a lead, but it was all I had. I set off immediately to catch the evening train. It was almost dawn when I arrived in Marseille. I traced Condor Transglobal to a desolate dockside.
Hi, good morning.
Do you know what time it is?
No, I don't wear a watch. As my dad used to say, I'm not into time, man.
Well, you're too early.
Take a look at this letter.
That's sick. Did you write it?
Oh, no. No, it's a letter from my girlfriend's admirer.
If I was you, I'd smack him in the mouth.
Well, that's not my style, but thanks for the advice. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, pal, what is it?
A poison dart used for hunting.
What would you hunt with that? Mice?
No, monkeys and stuff. The tip is dipped in poison.
Hey, what you got against monkeys?
I love monkeys. I was just using them as an example.
Well, don't.
What's cooking?
Beans. You know a man can live on nothing but beans.
Not this one. Don't you ever get tired of eating beans?
Sure I do. What do you take me for?
And what's the alternative?
Peas. I can't eat them too often, though. They play hell with my digestion.
Have you ever considered changing your diet?
What's wrong with beans and beer?
You need me to tell you? You're pumping out enough methane here to fill a dirigible. Have you ever heard of Professor Oubier?
Me? None of my friends are professors or anything like that.
I have these very exotic panties.
Take them away, you pervert!
I'm looking for a young woman.
At the docks? What kind of woman do you have in mind?
You don't understand. It's my girlfriend I'm trying to find.
Well, I ain't seen her, and you should tell her the docks ain't no place for a young lady. They're dirty and they're dangerous.
I'm certain my girlfriend was brought here when she was abducted.
What? Your girl was kidnapped?
Yeah, struck down by an Indian with a poisoned dart.
Like the one you showed me?
The very same. I could tell he didn't believe me. Ever heard of Condor Transglobal?
Sure. They have a warehouse here.
Well, could I take a look?
Not until after the holidays. Come back in a month.
I have to make a delivery to Condor Transglobal.
Where's your rig?
About half a mile down the road.
And you walked here? Jeez, Are you some kind of nut?
Nah, it was easy. I just put one foot in front of the other. Are you gonna let me make my delivery?
Not without the paperwork. You get the papers, you make your delivery, and I get a fat backhander.
I was getting nowhere with the story about being a trucker. Do you know what kind of business Condor's involved in?
I'm paid to guard the gate. Their business is none of mine.
Does that dog belong to you?
Nah, it comes with the job. I just feed him every now and then.
More then than now, I'd say. What's the dog's name?
20.
It's unusual for a dog.
It's his registration number. Security dog number 20.
That animal doesn't seem too hot for a guard dog.
No? You haven't seen him in action.
Doesn't look like he has the energy to wag his tail.
Just like my wife. She's like a slug in a coma until she's annoyed. Then she's like a tiger with a rat up its ass.
Sweet. What time is it anyhow?
The big hand's on the floor. Why aren't you in bed?
I can explain everything.
Never mind, I ain't that interested.
What time do you open the gates?
7.
Do you mind if I hang out here till the dock's open?
Please yourself, but you'll have a long wait. It's Sunday, and tomorrow is the start of the national holiday. Everything is closed for a month.
Well, wouldn't you just know it? I gotta go now, but I'll be back.
Can't wait.
The chimney was a metal pipe with a conical hat on top to stop the rain getting in. A short stick of wood floated near the edge of the landing stage. The stick had a hook on one end. I figured it was a boat hook for hooking boats. Bobbing up and down in the oily water was the watchman's discarded beer bottle. The bottle was just out of reach. Nothing was going to get me into that water if I could help it. I just knew that boat hook would be useful for something. As for the bottle, even if I couldn't find a use for it, I'd cleaned up the dock a little. Impaled on a spike were a number of documents. I couldn't reach the documents. It was a box of blank forms. I couldn't reach that far. It was a packet with a picture of a boxer dog on the front. It was a filthy, stained coffee mug. It was an old iron stove, which heated the hut and the watchman's dinner. Something was bubbling in the watchman's saucepan. It was a large bucket filled with coal. The watchman was big and bulgy, like a sack of potatoes. His flushed and bloated face wore a sleepy, amiable expression.
Excuse me?
Huh? Who's there?
Ouch! That's hot. The bottle was half filled with water. Maybe it would cool the cone down enough to touch it.